Walter, did you think of anything else you want to discuss, or are we just going to play it by ear?
Oh, we can play it by ear. I think we'll cover a lot of stuff. Okay, it's stopping.
What's going on?
Stopping my rustling.
Sounded like an ice bag opening.
Yeah. Well, how did you know? I mean, I have my room's filled with ice bags here.
Aha!
Just kidding.
I don't see the live stream link, so as soon as that comes up, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'm not streaming till 8:15, so
I'll have to wait.
But I'm going to the site right now too, just so I'm ready. His sink is dripping.
Yes, the sink is dripping. I was going to boot it up to Sync 2.0, but I haven't got it yet. Okay, now the sink is no longer dripping. Have you guys already started your show? Are you doing your show in the background?
No, we're just killing time for two more minutes.
Yeah, we're just about to go live.
You haven't started your show. Okay.
No, I'll tell you when we're on the air.
You'll find it very, very structured.
I'm going to walk away from the computer for about 90 seconds.
All right.
But I'll be back.
I feel terrible.
So is it a fever? What's going on?
Fever, aches, like it hurts when people touch my skin.
Ooh, you have that hypersensitivity, so
yeah,
probably a flu.
Yeah, it's nasty. Came on really fast last night. I had kind of felt a little bit like maybe a slight sore throat, but not really bad. I know ever since I had my tonsils out, I have not had sore throats, or not as many, and so it's hard for me to tell when I'm getting sick. And then like 7:30 was like bam, and then aches, chills, hot all night long, just totally like skin on fire. Couldn't get comfortable, didn't sleep. So
get well soon, Adam.
I'm amazed at this Atari 2600 list here. There's no way Pitfall lost out to Pac-Man.
Yeah,
I agree.
No, there's
3 million.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. There's a couple of reasons for that. The main reason is that Atari inflated the numbers of distribution because they boxed that game and sold it with Atari systems to get rid of it.
Pac-Man?
Yeah, after it wouldn't sell.
Oh, yeah, and Activision was yeah, okay.
So there's some artificial inflation in that Pac-Man number.
I never looked at that. I wonder if it actually says it's a Bally Midway licensed game or something. 'Cause doesn't it say it was made by Atari?
Atari licensed it from Namco.
Oh,
they licensed the home rights. So while Midway was doing the arcade thing, Atari took the home route. And you'll see that Atari did that with a bunch of games. They did the Tengen Pac-Man. They did all their games. Tengen did Sprint and all that stuff. Atari games were put out by Tengen on the NES. But there's lots of games that Atari licensed.
We're a minute over.
Plus, Midway and Bally, they didn't make a home system.
Oh, we are a minute over.
Oh, I start streaming. Hey, Walter.
He'll be back.
Well, we're streaming now, so that's okay.
I'm hitting. Starting the refreshing. The refreshing.
It's
so refreshing.
He said 90 seconds, but it's been like 3 minutes. I hope he's all right.
I like cake.
I like cake.
All of our listeners are like, he's not actually going to be on the show.
He was just here.
He was just here. Really, he was. I'm not
Psych, I'm the guest.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? You were gone last week.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
Or 2 weeks ago.
It was vacation-y.
You were not vacation. You were like getting an MRI or something.
Yeah, but it was vacation-y.
How's your back, by the way? Sucks getting old.
I know, right?
Don't do it.
It's just kind of happening.
La la la. Meanwhile, back at the Batcave, I think I can see his ceiling fan.
He could be in the men's room.
He's in the Matrix. There's a glitch in the Matrix. It's like, I guess this is the cold open. This is just like us waiting for Walter. Walter!
Hello?
Walter!
Hello?
I heard your call all the way across the hall.
All right, we're just about ready to start the show. Are you guys ready?
We're ready.
I'm ready when you're ready.
Okay, everybody, places. Wait for your cue, and we'll kick it off.
Welcome to Video Game News Update. I'm Walter Day at the Twin Galaxies International Scoreboard. Imagine playing a video game for 36 and a half hours and 1/4. That's definitely superstar play.
From KOYR Studios in Minneapolis, Minnesota, it's Arcade Radio. Intruder alert, intruder alert.
Has gripped the universe. So what's the score? Well, ask Walter Day of Twin Galaxies in Ottumwa and Kirksville.
Welcome to episode 14 of the Arcade Radio Podcast. Today is Thursday, March 13th, 2017, and the time is now approximately 8:19 p.m. Central. Thanks for joining us in the Arcadosphere. This is your host, Captain Kangaroo. I'm joined by the legendary Dan Reed and temporal displacement expert Mark Time Runner Shields, and the special guest host of the Arcade Radio Podcast this week, the outstanding, the famous, the distinguished, the notorious, the magnanimous Walter Day. Welcome to the show.
I am honored to be on today's show. Or is it tonight's show?
It's tonight's show, but you know what else? Yeah, Dan just yelled at me. I said March and I meant April. It's April 13th for the listeners out there. That's what you get with live radio.
Time travel is not allowed, Adam.
Time travel. We did this a month ago. Oh my gosh. So why don't we kick off by saying, what are we working on in the hobby? Mark, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I am reassembling an XD mousetrap. It's been fun finding parts. My DeLorean time machine is in the shop and ready to go. I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska, so I don't have access to all my stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I am brokering deals for Wells Gardner 6100 parts, as I'm also working on putting together a Tempest.
Nice. And you're Mark Shields.
Mark Shields, Time Runner, temporaldisplacement.com, UncleRicosVan.com, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Don't go to blah.com, though.
Blah.com. Dan, what are you working on?
Oh, I'm back in full swing of things, boys. I got my Journey out in the garage. I got my Cloak and Dagger in the garage, and I have decided, against my better judgment, to actually do the Neo Geo at the same time. So I'm working on those things.
All of them in the garage at the same time?
Huh?
All of them in the garage at the same time?
Yes. It's just a terrible idea. So if you guys are new to the hobby and you're going to start restoring things, listen, don't do 3 games at the same time. Just a terrible idea. But aside from that, I am working on a new top secret project. So now that my Journey modern replacement board is done, I sort of needed something to fill my time, and I'm not ready to make a formal announcement yet, but I will tell you it's multi-board and vector related. And that's all I'm saying.
FPGA?
I'm not saying anything yet until I get this thing.
Are you working with Brian on that thing? Oh,
sweet.
Hey, guess what, guys? Brian Armitage McLeod guy, Paradise Arcade guy.
Who?
The surgeon?
Yeah, that dude.
I've never heard of him.
This is like a friend of ours that we plug every week.
Who?
He is manufacturing the OR boards now, Omega Race boards.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, anyhow, Walter,
Well, I'm here.
Well,
I'm
hi.
Here with bated breath.
What are you working on? What are you working on?
I'm intrigued by how good you guys sound. You guys sound like you're a real radio show. I love it.
We're just wondering what you've been working on in the hobby lately.
Well, of course, people may have heard that we're filming a film. It's a reality show, but I'm not allowed to talk anything about it really, other than that we've been going different places, trading, and so we'll see how that all develops. And that's why we're in Minneapolis recently. It was quite a whirlwind tour when we reached Minneapolis, because we went into Game Informer magazine, and we're on the Game Informer show, and that's still online if people want to click on that and watch that. Billy Mitchell, the legendary Brian Kuh, and myself were there with the host of the Game Informer show up in the offices of the Game Informer magazine, which has like a 6 million magazine circulation, which has never been done. It's like the fourth biggest circulation magazine there is, I think, behind
That's awesome.
like Reader's Digest or Family Circle or something like National Geographic, something like that. So it's up in the stellar atmosphere. And then we went over to Good Company, which was at, what TV station was that? Was it KTSP?
That's right.
Is that right?
Yep.
KTBS. So I think that's ABC, isn't it? Or is it CBS?
Yeah.
Well, so we went into the studios for Good Company. It's not called Good Company anymore. It's called Twin Galaxies, Twin Cities Live.
That's right.
I think that's what it's called now. And Billy Mitchell appeared on their show. This is all on Friday, the 24th of March. So it was just a little while ago, if people can remember that still. And I pointed out to the crew that was running the show there that I had been in those studios on that stage as a guest in at least one time in September of 81, and I think the other time was in August of 81. So I've been there in their studios on that stage as a guest of the old show called Good Company.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did you remember that? That's awesome.
36 years ago. So how about that?
KTSP Channel 5. Yeah, so that was TCL Twin Cities Live. That's their new show. Yeah.
Wow. And then we went over on Saturday. No, Saturday we went over to, what did we do Friday night? I can't remember. Saturday we went over to the Mall of America. We hung out there, and Billy made some speeches. I made some speeches. Then we went over and hung out on Saturday night. We went to Up Down.
Oh, yeah. Up
we
Down.
did some filming. And then on Sunday we went over to the legendary Paradise
Arcade.
Paradise Arcade Sales, right?
Paradise Arcade Shop in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay, Paradise Arcade Shop in Minneapolis.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so
it's quite a whirlwind weekend, and so that's a lot of fun. We do appearances and do things like that. Get brought to arcades or different places to make appearances, so we have fun with that. But I personally do a bunch of different things, and I really don't know how long-winded I should be, because I know this is
that's all right.
Radio show.
You go as long as you want.
I do a lot of things behind the video game scenes. almost 50 years ago, I got trained, believe it or not, as a teacher of transcendental meditation. So people have noticed online and in different situations that I will talk about it every so often and even tout it and recommend it, and then post links to articles, because transcendental meditation, which is dear to my heart, is something that you actually do that affects your health and affects your state of happiness, affects your intelligence and your creativity. You sit down and close your eyes for 20 minutes in the morning and evening, and it's a miracle how it'll change the quality of your life, because it just opens up channels and turns things on, and actually, according to scientists, develops and unfolds the latent potential that's in your brain. So I'm in the background involved with stuff like that. But in the foreground, people know me as right now the trading card guy, because I believe that trading cards are a fun, educational, and entertaining vehicle for teaching about culture and teaching about history. So I have 4 big sets that I'm proud of. One of them is, of course, the video game and pinball trading cards. Another one is called the biographical trading cards, where it's like I foresee it becoming a 3,000 card set, because it's all about commemorating the lives of the people who have been very influential in history, who have affected the rest of our lives. So that's from baseball players to to dictators, to scientists, to explorers, to kings and queens. So on my website, which is called thewalterdaycollection.com, all one big long running word, thewalterdaycollection.com, I have almost 300 of those biographical cards already posted on the website. And actually,
awesome.
I even posted a blurb today. I even posted a blurb today on my Facebook page that said, "Happy birthday to Thomas Jefferson and Lord North." Lord North was the Prime Minister of Great Britain at the time that the American Revolution happened. And so he was in charge. It was on his watch that his government lost the American colonies. So it's his birthday today, and I had cards for them, so I posted the cards and wished them a happy birthday with links leading back to the biographical card set. So I do the trading cards for video games, for biography, for science fiction. In a few weeks, I'll be in Pittsburgh at the what's called the Nebula Awards. If anybody knows fiction, they'll recognize that the Nebula Awards are one of the two most distinguished awards in the huge science fiction industry. It's issued as a peer review award by all the other writers. I'll be there, and I'll get up on the stage, and I'll make presentations because I do the science fiction trading cards, and they love them. And so they allow me to get up on the stage and present trading cards to winners of different categories of the Nebula Award system. So, and then after that, I go to Helsinki, Finland, where I do a repeat performance, and I give the trading cards and awards on the stage to the people who win the Hugo Awards, which is actually the premier, I think it's the premier award for the science fiction industry. So I'm in science fiction, I'm in video games, and I'm in the historical biography of all the important people in history. And I do another one for my local community, Fairfield, the town I live in. I live in Fairfield, Iowa, and I do a set of cards for them.
You are extremely busy.
My big love that's just around the corner, I hope and think, is sitting down and finishing writing the musical that I've been working on for some time.
Oh, excellent!
An actual musical. So that's what I'm doing in the foreground and the background.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff. I can't even compete with that.
You're a busy man.
This weekend.
And also, I'm renovating 9 games at the same time.
Wow.
Fantastic.
What are you working on?
Just kidding.
Oh, okay. I'm like, dang.
I was reflecting on your warning that you should never try 3 games at once.
I was like, you just schooled me in front of everybody. Thanks, Walter.
Well, I'm not working on much right now because I'm actually a little bit under the weather. So if I'm a little less energetic than normal, I'm sorry, guys. Take over. Just take the show. I'm done. So anyway, I'm going to be selling a few games in the next couple of days. I've been talking about those. I did sell a Turbo at MGC over the weekend. Just getting rid of some of the overstock in my collection. And I'm working on the show and excited to have Walter here with us today. So let's move on to the next segment.
Exciting.
Let's move on to the next segment, and that is the Arcade News with Dan Reed here.
It's the Arcade News with Dan Reed.
Welcome back, Dan.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to cut this a little bit short because of our special guest tonight. We wanted him to have the most possible talk time on here. So just a few quick things to cover. Probably one of the more important things is Sky Cursor. That is now available for purchase. If you're interested, you can buy a kit or you can buy a full game, and the prices are somewhere between $700 for the kit and $1,500, I think, for the upright. Or is it even more?
Can you remind us what Sky Cursor is for the audience members who don't know what it is?
Sky Cursor is a shmup. It's a brand new arcade game. It was actually featured at the old MGC this past weekend, was it not, Adam?
Yeah. Yes. I didn't see it. So
what's the story with that?
It's probably downstairs. I didn't get to that one. I did get to a game called Cosmotron, and I can talk about that in a little bit.
So it's kind of exciting. I mean, it's a good sign of things to come potentially with the release of a full arcade cabinet and a whole new, I guess I think they call it the airframe. So it's a little bit like a Neo Geo, where it's a system you buy that you can plug new games into as they are being developed. So pretty cool.
I think they fly through the air into your game.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, it looks good to me. I've not played it, but I kind of have a special place in my heart for games like that. So pretty neat. So I think the website is griffinaerotech.com if you're interested. And there's probably a link on there somewhere in a very obvious place where you can buy from them. But aside from that, I believe the biggest news would be MGC this weekend, and our very own Adam went. Do you have anything to report, Adam?
Yeah, so I did not see the, sky cursor there, but
disappointed.
But that no one was telling me to look for it. No, bless you.
Oh boy.
No one was telling me to look for it, and MGC is a giant place, so for me to get to like every single little thing is pretty difficult. I did rub elbows with a lot of people, bumped into a couple of people that were in Man vs. Snake, and I talked to Jersey Jack, and I talked to a group of guys from Cosmotron, which is a brand new, really awesome 4-player competitive gravity game that I would love for it to end up at Up Down, but they are looking for backing right now to be able to produce it. They only have one unit, so it's really frustrating because it was a highlight of the show. What's the time travel game that Sega made back in the day?
Time Traveler?
Time Traveler, yeah. So Time Traveler, do you remember the cabinet? It was like a giant white cabinet.
Right.
It was tiny. It was a little pedestal.
It wasn't little, though. It was about 6 feet wide, and it was about 4 feet tall.
Yeah.
So it was pretty big. So if you imagine that same sort of form factor, but it's standing 6 feet tall with a little, set of like asteroids controls on for 4 people, and then a big, huge widescreen, and it's all done vector style. So little ships, basically Omega. Just think, asteroids, Omega race, but competitive. So that was like literally the coolest game there. I must have spent most of my time over at Cosmotron. Cool. There was Jersey Jack was there with a new Pete Lawler's original concept, Dialed In. It's a new pinball machine that features Bluetooth connectivity, so you can actually like hook up your phone and then use your phone for the flippers. And it also has a camera built in, and the whole theme is like a smartphone theme. So
Dialed In. I do remember this.
Yeah. So when when you play it, it goes into like selfie mode, and then it'll start snapping pictures of you while you're playing the game, which is kind of embarrassing.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, so it's the first original concept game to come out by any pinball maker in a very long time, because pretty much everybody's doing themes like Ghostbusters and Batman 66 and The Hobbit and Game of Thrones, and the list goes on and on. But this is pretty interesting that Dialed In is, and it's actually a very difficult game. I played it with Armitage while I was there, and we got schooled a couple times, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. So
I'm interested. Did you say who is the publisher? Is it Stern?
Jersey Jack.
Oh, Jersey Jack. Interesting.
Yeah, Jersey Jack is actually, in my opinion, they're the superior pinball maker now.
Without a doubt.
Stern does what they do. They do a good job. I think that Stern has gotten used to being the powerhouse and the only game in town. And Jersey Jack had sort of a slow start with, Wizard of Oz and Hobbit and such. But I think they're really going to dial it in, so to speak, here. And be able to, compete at a higher level. The trouble is all these games are just stupidly expensive. You're talking about $8,000, $9,000 to get into a modern pin today. And I just, for that money, I'd rather have a set of solid states from the 80s. So,
Walter, have you ever been into pinball much?
No, actually, pinball somehow didn't come up as a kid. Pinball didn't come up my radar, and I didn't become established in pinball on any level. And then later on, I was just so engrossed in the video game competition world that pinball was wonderful and intriguing, but it's something that I never personally did. And also, I find that I'm really bad at it. I have no rhythm. I have no sense for it.
Did Twin Galaxies ever have any pinball machines?
No timing, no intuitive connection with it at all. It's just completely an alien thing for me. And that doesn't mean I don't like it. In fact, I walk through the different events that I've gone through, and I marvel over how beautiful the machines are. And I think that if I ever had actual money, I probably could become a pinball collector, but I'm not expecting to have that kind of. I'm not looking. I'm not trying to get it anyway, because I'm amazed by how a top rare game in the video game field might be $1,000 or $2,000, and with that same kind of thing in the pinball realm, some of them are $15,000 now. This year, some of the games were $15,000. The brand new games. Which one was it? Yeah. Ghostbusters, LE, or whatever it's called?
Yeah, when they get those limited editions and special editions, they get up there in price.
It's out of control. I don't know how people can afford them.
Yeah, well, I don't know. But yeah, so MGC was a hit. We had all kinds of industry alumni there. Tim, I can't remember his last name right now, but he did the Atari art book was there. So it was just an awesome show. Dan Lewson will probably be on the show in about a month or so to do an official MGC postmortem with us.
Cool. Sounds good to me. And to kind of speed this along, I think we're going to call that the Arcade Radio News for this week. So back to you.
All right.
Back in '82, I used to be able to throw a pigskin a quarter mile.
Back to the Cade with
Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
Hey guys, step into the DeLorean time with I don't know why that happens. Step into the DeLorean time machine with me. Watch your head as that old gull-wing door can sag and bonk you on your noggin. Get ready to time travel with me.
Ow.
We're going to Sunday, November 7th, 1982. And why did I pick this date? It is the date Life magazine gathered the Ottumwa, Iowa high school cheerleaders and 16 arcade game all-stars.
Nice.
On Main Street behind 6 of the top video games in the USA. So everything here that I'm going to mention was either happening on that date or, it was the top of whatever happened that week.
Oh, that's cool. This will be fun.
And so this way I'm going to get a little bit of, hopefully some interaction with Walter. Are you game for trying this, Walter?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, good. Okay, so a bit of arcade news. Konami this week in 1982 released Time Pilot.
Oh, sure.
One of my favorite games. And so there's a cool story about it. The guy that designed it, his name is Yoshiki Okamoto. He also designed Gyrus for Konami, and then eventually Final Fight and Street Fighter 2 for Capcom. Pretty cool.
Can I just interject one thing here?
Yeah.
Did you guys?
Oh, wait. No interjecting.
I have to interject. Did you guys hear about Canada hiding the Konami code in its commemorative $10 bill launch?
What? No.
What are you talking about?
I'm not even kidding. So this week they announced Canada's currency, already the world's dorkiest, with its plastic material and transport windows, for a $10 bill celebrating the nation's 150th anniversary. They hid an Easter egg of the Konami code: up, down, down, left, right, BA, start. In the bill. No joke. Yeah, it's on Engadget. Go check it out.
I love the Canadians. They're the best.
Yeah.
Wow.
You be respectful of our guests, Mr. Dan. Okay.
I said Canadians.
Oh.
Right. And, our 2 Canadian listeners, let's not alienate those guys, all right?
All right.
I was giving them kudos.
Moving on.
Back to Yoshiki. The way he designed Time Pilot, he told his bosses, hey, I got this idea. They said, no, don't do that. We want you to make this driving game. And so he secretly gave instructions to his programmer to work on Time Pilot. And then when the Time Pilot was released and was a success, his boss claimed that it was all his idea.
Typical.
Yeah.
I love that game. Walter, have you grown to love Time Pilot, or what's your take on that game?
Well, when Time Pilot first came out, I loved it. I thought it was quite wonderful, and it actually was pretty groundbreaking at the time. It was a dynamic game. It was a fun game. I liked Time Pilot. I haven't played it in years and years and years, but to me, it was in Twin Galaxies back when it came out. Sorry, I don't have anything more.
That's not bad.
Gripping to tell you, but it just was a simple and good and fun game, and people would line up and for some time, of course, it would have been the most successful game in the arcade. But that quite often applies to every new game.
Sure.
In fact, here's my perspective. There was a phenomenon called the new game, that I call the new game phenomena. And what it was that if an arcade, because we had 3 or 4 arcades in Ottumwa at the same time, and if we had a bunch of games and we're pulling in a reasonable amount of traffic, if the arcade across the street brought even just one brand new game in, there'd be huge defection of our customers. Arcade, and you got to realize that they would be paying $950 for the game. Okay,
how much was that? How much?
Equivalent of almost $3,000 was the common. Almost $3,000 would be the common price. I think $27.95 back in the earliest days of Twin Galaxies was a common price for a new game. So it was just close to being the equivalent of buying a car. And so they would have a row of games there, and that's a row of cars they have in there, each one with a mortgage on it. So they would bring a brand new game in, and suddenly everybody would go across to them and start playing their games and playing that new game. And we would suddenly be not empty, but certainly less income. So then we would buy an even newer game, because a lot of games were coming out very fast back then. We're talking about 81, 82, 83. We'd buy a newer game, then everybody would come back to our place all excited about the new game. And that means that suddenly the people are not over there playing their game, which was new 2 weeks earlier, but now is. And the problem is that all these arcades who were doing that, who were trying to draw the traffic to their place, they were killing each other. They're putting us out of business because both of them were working together to ensure that neither one of them could pay their monthly mortgage payments. And at the very end, on March 6, 1984, the Twin Galaxies arcade closed because trucks pulled up one morning and they hauled away the games. They weren't our games. They were in there on a lease agreement with a local route operator, and the route operator couldn't make the payments, so he got foreclosed on, and into Twin Galaxies suddenly having an empty room full, an empty arcade. The room full of games became an empty room with no games. So that's a funny thing. So there was a time there when Time Pilot was really pulling in the dollars, and a period when just a few weeks later it's got less and less and less earnings, and towards the end there nothing was paying for itself.
Yeah.
None of the games could pay the mortgages because at the same time there were too many arcades offering too many games, too many rival situations, too many rival places to spend your quarters. So eventually everybody was going out of business together.
All right, Mark, what do you got next?
We're going to talk about the top 5 songs from November 7th, 1982. Number 5, Jack and Diane by John Cougar.
Little ditty.
There you go.
I like to clap my hands when the song comes on.
Well, let's not listen to it. Talk over it. Tell us what's going on.
His 4th album. His 3rd album was called Nothing Matters, and What If It Did? It sounds very confrontational. He had a session player on that named John Jarvis. John and Wonder Woman's Linda Carter recorded original songs just a couple of years ago for the game Fallout 4.
Linda Carter, Wonder Woman?
She sings. I did not know this.
Man, she's
like
pretty.
These songs. They're a little jazzy.
I miss Linda Carter.
She's still out there? She's gettable, man.
You miss 80s Linda Carter, though, right? Let's be honest.
Probably.
She's
Anyway.
on Supergirl. She was on Supergirl.
Oh, right.
She was?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. She's the president of the United States, of course.
Okay, you guys both watch Supergirl? Seriously, come on.
They overshot that one. Hey, let's go to number 4. I Keep Forgetting Every Time You're Near by Michael McDonald.
A little bit of the Doobie Brothers there, huh? Okay, let's go. Let's
But he's not a Doobie Brother. This
He used to be a Doobie Brother.
Yeah, this is his first solo album after he got out of the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah, this is non-Doobie.
Right.
See, that's my best Michael McDonald there.
That's pretty good.
Walter, have you met Michael McDonald?
Never.
Okay. So the fun thing about Michael McDonald, a few years ago, this eBay seller, whose name I'm not going to try to say, he made a decision one morning, and this is what he said in a quote. I made this after I woke up suddenly at 4:45. My bed was soaked in sweat, and I had a higher power that made its vision clear to me to build the world's first Michael McDonald arcade joystick.
Are you kidding me?
What?
That's right. How? I don't even know what. I don't know what that would look like.
Pictures.
Michael McDonald. Well, there's a link. Michael McDonald's face. The blue button theme was designed to match his soul-piercing blue eyes.
Oh my gosh!
It was sold on eBay for an unknown price. I don't really know what the final
$16.32.
Is that right?
No.
It was briefly used in a smoke-free houseboat.
Is that Dan laughing?
You gotta look at this thing.
Oh, is it?
I want it so bad. Someone buy it for me.
Did you put a link in the chat?
I think only you can do that.
Oh no!
Why can't you do it? You're there typing.
I'm not. It won't let you.
It's wrong.
It is wrong. It was very. That was a topic of conversation for a couple of days. So let's move along here. Number 3, Heart Attack by Olivia Newton-John, who I thought was fine.
Had the hots for her big time.
All her videos though are like far away shot, medium shot, and then really up close on her face, and then they repeat.
Sandy from Greece.
So, interesting thing about Olivia Newton-John, she was hired by Nintendo to advertise their Nintendo DS brain training game series, which I totally did not notice that they sold.
Brain train, yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do. For their handhelds.
Interesting. And they also got her to do some Wii Fit commercials. They were mostly in the Australian markets.
Did you know there's a conspiracy theory on the movie Grease? That the very ending of it, when they fly away in the car, is her dying. In the beginning of the movie, when she's swimming around and drowning, that was actually her swimming around and drowning.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's just a... Yeah, you like that?
Heavy duty, man.
Conspiracy.
You know what's funny? I watch Supergirl. I don't care about that story.
There's a Family Guy episode where they're in that car, but they've been up in the air for like a week, and it's really cold. Anyway,
there's an episode of Taxi with them where they get stuck in the taxi in the wintertime. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, we're almost at number 2. Who Can It Be Now by Men at Work.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, this album debuted at like number 1. It was a huge album for them.
I love it. I've met Colin Hay, very nice guy.
Yeah.
Cool thing about this is that Men at Work are in the game Saints Row 2. You can customize your character in such a way that when he's driving a car, he'll turn on the radio and sing along, not well, by the way, to some songs. And one of the songs is Men at Work's Down Under.
That's a good song.
But like when the guy's singing, he's like, down under, like that.
He doesn't know the words.
He doesn't know the words. Or she.
Down under.
Vigilante
sandwich.
We're moving up. Last song was Up Where We Belong by Joe Cocker and Jennifer Warnes. Nobody likes that.
No.
Blah. You know, actually, he opened for Tina Turner a few years back, and he did this song. He's actually... what's that?
Were you there?
Yeah.
Did he do the hands thing?
What hands? What?
He likes to be very emotive with his hands.
Oh my gosh, yeah. He was so funny. He was jumping up and down, and he, if you look at his picture on his greatest hits or essential hits or 20th Century Masters or whatever, he's got this huge head of hair. He's a skinny guy, and now he's got no hair, and he's really heavy, and he was just jumping all over the stage. It was great.
Awesome. Let's talk about what was going on at the box office when they shot that Life magazine cover. Sylvester Stallone's First Blood was number 1 at the box office for third weekend in a row.
Great movie.
And what's funny is that E.T. the Extraterrestrial actually kept becoming number 1, and then it was displaced, but then it would come back. It's kind of funny.
like
My notes here say that Death Race 2000, another Stallone film, are what spawned the XD game in 1976 called Death Race. That's kind of a fun game, and you're supposedly only running over gremlins, not innocent bystanders.
Oh yeah, there was some controversy around that game.
Crazy rare game.
Walter, do you remember Death Race?
Well, actually, Death Race came out before Twin Galaxies opened, and by the time it opened, it wasn't that commonly distributed, so we never had one and never saw one for years.
Yeah, they were banned in most cities because of the violent content.
Those poor gremlins.
True.
And the same with Chiller.
So what was on TV that week? Well, on ABC, the memorable Matt Houston.
Sure.
Remember that? Can't wait till they make the movie. On NBC, Voyagers, Chips, TV's bloopers and practical jokes, and then the seldom seen TV's greatest commercials. Which I assume were funny commercials. I don't know. I don't think that one lasted very long.
I would watch
CBS, would you? CBS had 60 Minutes, Archie Bunker's Place, Gloria, The Jeffersons, One Day at a Time, and Trapper John M.D. The classic.
One day at a time.
Sweet.
I didn't realize this. I never watched Archie Bunker's Place. It was the spinoff to All in the Family. Come to think of it, I didn't watch All in the Family either, but it was set mostly in Archie's fictional bar, Kelsey's. The bar usually featured a pinball machine in the background. Gottlieb's Hit the Deck, Bally's Fireball 2, and Stern's Disco were among the many pinball machines that you saw during the show's run. And that's it. That's all for the Back in the Cade segment.
Be our guest. Be our guest. Put our service to the test.
That means it's time to interview Mr. Walter Day.
Oh, yeah.
Walter, welcome to the show again.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you. You've become quite the arcade legend since the debut of King of Kong back in, was it 2006? Well, why don't we skip that topic for a minute? Can you share with us a little of your history before you started the Twin Galaxies arcade?
Well, I was born in Oakland, California. As a youngster, we moved down to Anaheim, California. And we moved into Anaheim 8.5 months before Disneyland even opened. My understanding is that we moved in about the same week that Walt Disney actually signed the contract for all the property that eventually grew to be Disneyland. So when Disneyland opened up on July 17th, 1955, my family and I, we went in there on about the third day of its existence. I've been saying that for years, but we can't really be certain if it was the third day, but it was the very beginning. So who knows? So I have Disneyland in my blood. So I always have this tendency to want to make amusement attractions out of things. So maybe that's why it happened in the way that it did. But then we moved to Lynn, Massachusetts. And there in a suburb of Boston called Lynn, I went to high school, then went to college. And I got trained to be a teacher of Transcendental Meditation, as I commented earlier. I ended up moving to Fairfield because there was a big university campus here, actually specifically focused on the practice and the study of science and the application of the Transcendental Meditation program as something you do for education. They call it consciousness-based education. So it's a very profound campus. It's called Maharishi University of Management, and it's become a very, very big deal around the world. A lot of spin-off branches all over the world. But while I was here, I had to find some sort of way to support myself. I fell in love with video games. Holy smokes did I fall in love with video games. And as an excuse to be able to play more video games, I opened up Twin Galaxies in downtown Ottumwa, which is 24 miles away from my town. My town here is Fairfield, Iowa. And 24 miles away is Ottumwa. And on November 10th, 1981, we opened up an arcade, me and a friend named John Block, and it grew to be a pretty good success. Probably the hardest thing on the arcade was the creation of the scoreboard, because I pulled money out of the arcade to support the growth and development of the scoreboard. So that was kind of financially difficult for the arcade just to survive.
And so for our listeners, the scoreboard is what?
The Twin Galaxies scoreboard became the official scorekeeper for the world of video game playing. It was the scoreboard that you'd find listed a table of scores, and many, not all, but many of the magazines back in the old days from 82, 83, 84, 85. It was the scoreboard. You would organize contests. It would create rules for playing. It would crown champions. It would enforce the rules. Essentially, it was the birth of esports. When Twin Galaxies started the scoreboard, it created the rules for competitive play so that people in different far-ranging locations could compete against each other based on the high scores on their local machines. The whole world of arcades became united into a global esports arena way back in 82. So it was the birth of esports, essentially.
Yeah,
Organized competitive gaming. Not just gaming, because gaming's been around forever, but it was organized competitive gaming to allow people to truly become world champions, knowing that they're beating everybody else who's part of the system.
I was just going to add to that, Walter, that Billy at the Mall of America dubbed you the grandfather of esports. I think that's maybe true.
I agree.
Yes.
So, and that could be not very, I have a trading card here that says Walter Day, father of esports, so it's got to be true.
There you go.
It's public consensus that over time will decide if there's a father of esports and who that person is.
It's true.
So even though I have that card and it's a little tongue-in-cheek, still when that time comes, and if it ever comes, and they're considering potential candidates, I know that I will be one of the candidates that they'll have to consider. So that's probably the only thing real I can say about the situation. But I'm honored and flattered anytime someone refers to me as the father of esports, and it could very well prove to be true. But it's not me to decide; it's future generations of people and their collective decision.
Mark, do we have any questions in the chat?
Yeah, actually, Andy's asking about your songs that were in Chasing Ghosts. He wants to know if recordings like Easier Said Than Done, Love is a Changing World, or anything else, is that available anywhere for people to buy?
No, all my songs are unfinished, but they play sometimes in complete form inside my head over and over and over again. I love the card so much, but I'm actually going to make the concerted effort to go and put a lot of attention on the music starting in a couple of months. I thank Andy for caring enough about my music to even want to bring it up. I appreciate that very much, and I look forward to doing the music and making it flush out the way I hear it.
Nice.
So on that note, is it true that Chasing Ghosts had two separate soundtracks completely for the movie?
Well, if you can get the prototype one, it has an amazing soundtrack. And also there's a lot more footage and scenes in it that had to be cut out in the process of making it. What was it shown? Was it shown on HD? I can't even remember anymore. Somewhere it was shown.
On Netflix?
And they had when they were tooling around with it and making the original version that they were marketing to film festivals and to potential purchasers, it had a remarkable soundtrack. But then they couldn't afford the level of cost required to have such great songs, so they had to come up with some sort of music that hopefully captured the mood of each respective moment. In some moments it probably did capture it, but generally it didn't. So there was an original soundtrack that was marvelous. In fact, the main anchor song that starts it off at the beginning and ends it at the very end is Space Age Cowboy by Flock of Seagulls.
Space Age Love Song by Flock of Seagulls.
That's how it starts, right there.
Yep.
There. It was so perfect, it was unbelievable.
I and five of my friends and my girlfriend too, we went down to Park City, Utah, and on January 22nd, 2007, Chasing Ghosts premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. And then about a half an hour later, Slamdance Film Festival, which is the rival film festival, also brought to you by Park City, Utah. In other words, just one block away, The King of Kong did its world premiere. Both of them within a half an hour of in the same town in rival film festivals, Slamdance and Sundance movies. And so there were different news stories that were marveling over the fact that two movies with a lot of the same characters and were come out at the same time in the same city in the same almost the same film festival. So Chasing Ghosts is a fun movie, and something happened with its business trajectory. In other words, however they signed contracts to move it forward, something didn't seem to be done right in the paperwork, if I understand, which disallowed it from ever
reaching DVD. So, and I don't know all the details, but that's the story, the rumor I've always heard, and I don't know anything else because you never see it. It's never been marketed or sold. And of course, King of Kong has gone on to become a legend. There were some film critics who are very smart, very experienced, very plugged-in film critics, did this big research where they watched the 3,000 top movies, or what they presumed were the top movies, of the last 10 years, so that they could select from those 3,000 the 30 films of the last 10 years. And they chose King of Kong to be number 29 in that series of 30 top films.
Oh.
So, and there's other places where I've seen that King of Kong is considered the 6th greatest documentary ever made. and who knows I mean, there's no question that there's an artistic quality to it. It's an immensely entertaining story. But of course, it doesn't reflect what actually happened.
Yeah, okay.
It's tended to forcefully create villains and heroes, whether or not they deserve to be villains or heroes, or whether or not they actually were villains or heroes. So.
I actually have a question. We actually regularly bring up these documentaries, so our audience probably is loving hearing this from the first time from someone who's actually been in those documentaries. But can we talk briefly about a scene from Chasing Ghosts? I think it was in Chasing Ghosts where there was like there's to be a tour of pro arcade game players touring the country. The idea was that each city would promote the games, and then you could beat one of the masters. You could win a game. And it started out it was supposed to start out in Boston.
That was called the Electronic Circus.
Okay.
In February of 1983, my phone rang one day, and there was a man from Boston who worked in a company called Meeting Planners. His name was Jim Riley, and he said, "Mr. Day, I've been sent to you by the video game industry because they say you're the person that I would need to work with to make this happen." He said, "All night last night, I was up all night, unable to sleep, with this big vision of a traveling electronic circus." And he invited me to supply my champions, and it would be called, I think at that time it was going to be called the Twin Galaxy Superstars. And he offered me 25% of the whole gate if I brought my act on the road with him. Okay?
Wow.
And then a little bit later, I started talking and interacting with other people who he was signing up, and they too had been offered a quarter of the gate. At that point, the warning bells went off, and I realized we had a problem here. Houston, we've got a problem. So essentially, it mismanaged itself to death, and it didn't have enough, funding, and it didn't have enough advertising. It was open from July 15th to July, 19th. It was 5 days long. Boy, was I thankful it closed down at the end, because I was so tired, because the hours were deadly, and then it dropped dead. It had 50 different games. No, it had mainly, I think, was 10 different games, 50 copies each. So I think there were like 50 gyruses, 50, dragon slayers, I think.
Wow.
Maybe just one dragon slayer. There was 50 like super Pac-Mans or something, and people were going to come in and face off against my champions. But along the way, once he had the players all wrapped up, then he stopped calling me and never would work with me again because he had the players, and that's what he wanted. So the players rebelled, though, and demanded that I be brought in. So suddenly he had to kind of bring me in. So I was there for the 5 days from the moment it opened up till the 5th day when it closed, kind of out of bankruptcy. But it was a brilliant idea, way ahead of its time, super expensive, with union labor and with big semi-tractor trailers to carry the games around. They needed, I think, to have 20 or 30 or 40,000 attendees to make it break even. I think they had like 1,100 or 1,200 at the most.
Oh, that's too bad. Now, I'm going to kind of play into a little story that Billy was telling us a couple weeks ago. But at some point, a bunch of kids, these arcade masters, these superstars, ended up using Twin Galaxies Arcade as sort of a place to crash for the night, as a refuge. What was it like to be surrounded by these kids that looked up to you and were so talented at these games?
Well, one would wonder whether or not they looked up to me or not. But I was surrounded by all these wild kids. I essentially was babysitting a lot of other people's children. But But we were there together as fellow serious gamers. And the reason we were there together is because way back then, long before the burgeoning esports of today, we all believed in the future of competitive electronic gaming. All of them wanted to be organized professional video game players. The same dream that the modern players have today, the modern people getting into it, they had back all those years ago. It's just that there wasn't the technology available. There wasn't the infrastructure available, like the internet. There was not the sponsors available. See, with modern technology now, a sponsor can reach farther and farther and farther into the culture and be seen with their product by more and more people. And then also with the technology being so advanced, they can also verify how many people have seen their product, and they can see the results. See, in the old days with Twin Galaxies, we actually got in a big bus. We actually drove to different places in person to be at the arcade. We had to go in person because there was no internet.
Yeah. So I heard there was an incident with the bus at some point.
Oh, many incidents. The bus broke down, I think it was 5 times or 6 times, until finally at the very end, it blew a gasket, it blew out all the oil, and the bus was by the side of the road in Minnesota, up in a place called Portage. No, it's
Sure.
Portage, Wisconsin. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Portage, Wisconsin.
Is it still there? Is the bus still there? We should go find it.
Well, I thought you were going to ask me if Portage, Wisconsin was still there.
Maybe that's why Wisconsin has all those warehouses full of arcade games. The
Do they have warehouses full of arcade games?
Oh yeah.
You mean some of them are still untapped and on?
Oh sure.
Yep, we find those every once in a while.
Oh yeah, Wisconsin's got a truckload of them.
Wow. When this last time something really cool came out of a warehouse in Wisconsin?
One of the local restorers here, Sean Williams, he found a Juno First just within the past week. And that's kind of a
How about
hot game.
that? I liked Juno First.
Yeah, it's a great game.
That was Centuri, I think.
Let's take a left turn, get away from video games just for a second. Can you tell us about some of your experiences in India?
Well, I go to India because I go to Hyderabad. You probably haven't heard of Hyderabad. And even though it's the 4th biggest city, population-wise, it's the same size as New York City. So
About 8 million people?
yeah, about something like that exactly. And also it's considered the Silicon Valley of that Middle East or Far East or whatever it's designated as. It's the Silicon Valley for not just India, but for the whole region. So that tons and tons of wealth there. You view India as being a place of poverty and peasants, and yeah, that's true, a lot of places. But Hyderabad is completely of a different style. It's pretty amazing. But it's there in one of the sprawling outside neighborhoods of that town that I go to an actual spa. It's called the Raju Family Ayurvedic Clinic. And I go there and I do an ancient technique of medicine called Ayurveda. That's spelled Ayurveda, Ayurveda. And that rejuvenates the physiology, in many ways reverses the process of aging, heals it deep, removes toxins and negative things from the system. And so it's like a great thing to do for life extension.
And so you that's your primary reason for going to India then, is just...
Yep. I go there to do the spa to reverse the processes of the terrible strain that the video game industry is putting on me.
So
breaking.
So speaking of strain, you have like I think you mentioned you have somewhere near 1 million trading cards or something now.
Between the video game one, the biographical one, Fairfield, my local city set, and the science fiction ones, we have a little bit over 1,650 printed so far.
Different cards, individual cards,
Different cards.
And then you have them.
1,600, and each one almost unanimously, except for maybe out of the 1,650 cards, maybe 100 of them were printed in a run, less than 1,000 copies.
Okay.
So therefore, we have produced essentially 1.6 million cards. They're not all there because I've given a huge number of cards away.
And by the way,
I probably have given away 250,000 cards.
And you can buy them on eBay too if you guys are looking for.
Oh yeah, please come and do that, because after all these years because we've been giving away cards for free for so many years. At this point, the only way the project can continue forward is that, well, actually, people sponsor cards. That's one of the things that's happening nowadays. People will sponsor the printing of a card. It's about $50 per card, sometimes slightly less. But anytime that it is less, then I take those leftover dollars and put back into something else in the project. So, see, some guy was on the internet with me today discussing sponsoring, like maybe Neil Armstrong, the famous astronaut.
Oh, yeah.
And a person was online today discussing sponsoring Ray Bradbury, the famous science fiction author. Another person, a businessman in Southern California, he's considering getting in and sponsoring 32 cards in the science fiction set. Another person in Southern California, he's agreed to sponsor 10 cards in the video game set. So, but there's so many cards. There's literally hundreds of cards ready to print anytime I can raise the money to print them. I kind of psychologically have grown way beyond the idea that, oh, this is my business, even though I love doing this and wouldn't mind it to be my business to survive. But I really see this as a statement, a historical statement, where I create the cards as a gift for future generations to marvel over, because essentially the cards commemorate the history and the culture of our times. Because the phenomena of cyberspace and video games and being an electronic gamer, it's a big cultural deal. And by having all these different people, so many of them aren't what you consider world-shaking famous people, with having all these people on the trading cards and all these historic milestones and different events that normally would not have been recorded or recognized or remembered by the history books, we're making a historical tapestry that future generations will be able to follow and look at and marvel at and see who the people were that were the people of the first generation of gamers. Because you and I, all of us, we are the first gamers.
Yeah.
And the cards essentially say, we were the first gamers, and this is our story.
That's cool. I love that. You know what? We have a few questions in the chat.
Yeah, we have a couple questions there. One of them is the 6 or 7 games that was in the Life magazine photo. Did those come out of Twin Galaxies? And do you know whatever eventually became of them?
The actual physical machines came out of the Twin Galaxies arcade.
Oh, so that operator probably snagged them back.
Oh, yeah, they went back into the arcade. However, I have the old records for Twin Galaxies, and I could go back and I could find, because the operator, what was called Hawkeye Amusements out of Iowa City, would stamp like a 4-digit number on the side of the game or in the front drawer or the front down at the bottom. So if you have a game with a 4-digit number stamped in it in the front or the side, it possibly was a Hawkeye game, okay, because they had like over 4,000 machines in their route, and who knows where they went. So technically, I could possibly find the numbers in our records for the games that were there that week, November 7th, 1982, and research and
be interesting to see if any of them
reconstruct what the numbers were. And now here's the other thing. Me and the famous Brian Kuh,
legendary.
We went on TV together about 2 months ago, and in a newspaper article together, talking about the old tokens for Twin Galaxies, because after all these years, I don't have a single copy of the old tokens for Twin Galaxies, and it's like a holy grail. If anybody has in their collections the tokens that say, I think it says Space Amusements Family Arcade, but it says Space Amusements with a TS on the end. Space Amusements. If you have and it's the big token that's slightly bigger than a quarter. So if you have one of those tokens that says Space Amusements on it, you have a Twin Galaxies token. Because we've been trying to find them in Ottumwa, and no one, even despite the news of being on TV and the newspaper, no one has come forward from Ottumwa. A couple people came through in a nearby city, but generally the tokens, how many were ever made, they all seem to have disappeared into a black hole. So everybody should check their collections to see if you have a Space Amusements token, because that's the official Twin Galaxies token. It was never called Twin Galaxies back in the early 80s. It was called Space Amusements.
And those are .984 for those nerds that know the size of their tokens.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, I believe. Just slightly bigger than a quarter.
Yep.
Now, 6 games, we didn't have a Ms. Pac-Man, okay? And so we suddenly discovered at the last moment across the street in the local strip parlor, a place called the Horseshoe Club, the little old lady there had a Ms. Pac-Man. So she loaned it to us for a few hours for the photograph. The photograph was over. She said in her deep, deep foghorn voice, from having smoked 5 packs of cigarettes a day for 40 years, she said, "Hope you folks realize that the Horseshoe Club is expecting full credit in Life magazine for the use of their Ms. Pac-Man." Anyway, somehow Life magazine failed to give her full credit. But I don't think she ever knew or ever cared, so that's water under the bridge, I guess. I hope this stuff is entertaining to you folks.
Oh, yeah, this is awesome. Yeah. So another one for Walter. He says, "I'll keep posting. No worries if I can't get to him." So there were other kids in the pics and Chasing Ghosts. So I think he's referring to the Life magazine thing again. In Chasing Ghosts, there was more kids in the photo than were featured in the film, and he was wondering, do you know anything about them or why they weren't featured in the film?
There were 16 people in the photograph. One of those people, and that was November 7th, 1982. In July of 1985, one of those people drowned. Of course, he's not going to be in the photograph,
Sure.
or not be in the documentary. He was a good guy, and we miss him, but unfortunately he drowned. So that left 15 people. One person got in trouble and went to jail for years, so he couldn't be included.
Yeah.
One person from Bakersfield, California, after that photograph, in the next summer, June of 1983, from that moment onward in June of 73, we never saw him or ever heard from him again. And despite the fact we've looked for him again and again and again and again over the years, including the people who did Chasing Ghosts, one of their day jobs was to actually find people. They actually were hired to be like detectives, finding people. Despite all their advanced skills and the resources they had at their fingertips, they could not find this person. His name was Doug Nelson. He's the one who's kind of like standing up a little more in the back with a big bushy blonde hair and a beard. Nelson's sort of in the center. We could never find him again. He was in Bakers, California, and allegedly he was about 29 years old at the time. So you'd be able to tell what year he would have graduated. Approximately.
Black Ops.
Would have been around 1970. So maybe he got arrested and was in jail or something like that.
Or he's like
Doug Nelson has never surfaced after all these 35 years.
Witness protection program.
Yeah. He's probably a video game podcaster in Wisconsin.
Oh my gosh, we have a voicemail. Let's play it.
Do it.
All right.
Hey, Arcade Radio team, this is Bob Zarzadeck here. I got a serious question for Mr. Walter Day, and I'm real nervous, so my hands are all sweating. If I suddenly drop this phone, you know what happened. Hey, Walter, if you could stand in for any singer or musician in any band that ever existed, which one would it be and who would it be for, okay?
Ooh, good question.
Now and listen to your answer. I'm calling from like 5 weeks ago. Anyway, that's all, kids. Zarzadeck out.
So the question was, if you could be in any band or play with any band, which one would you play with?
Well, I guess I'm pretty. That's such an interesting question that I'm really reflecting on it. Of course, I'm older than you folks, so I'd have a bias for the Beatles.
All right.
That'd be such a big charge of an experience. Or maybe the Rolling Stones.
Oh yeah.
It would have to be someone who, because on June 24th, 1966, I was at Usher at a Rolling Stones concert in my hometown of Lynn, Massachusetts, and on that night the crowd rioted and got tear gassed. So I got tear gassed by the police.
Oh no!
As an usher at the Rolling Stones concert.
Oh, that's cool.
It's one of their legendary outings. So I think that would have to be the Beatles first.
Yeah. Well, you can't really go wrong with the Beatles, right?
Right.
So, which album is your favorite Beatles album, by the way?
Well, I was pretty impressed with their White Album. I was pretty impressed with Sgt. Pepper's.
Mm-hmm. Rubber Soul.
Rubber Soul, yeah, Rubber Soul especially. Rubber Soul, Sgt. Pepper's, White Album. I liked all their stuff.
Yeah, me too.
But Rubber Soul was real special, no question about it.
you have a proposal for the Superstars Arcade Card Series project for maybe a contest. What's your proposal?
Okay, here's the idea. I like to, well, first of all, I haven't thought it out all the way, but I want to throw this challenge out that we should crown on a trading card the premier gamer or the premier arcade renovator for the state of Minnesota on a trading card and honor him or her for their contributions to the world of classic arcade gaming, classic arcade collecting, classic arcade renovation and refurbishment. So I wanted to throw this out to see if the public would like to put their heads together and vote and assess different candidates and then select who they think is the most deserving person for the state of Minnesota to be on a trading card. And this trading card would honor them for their tremendous contributions to the world of classic arcade renovating.
Oh, so renovating and specifically, or somebody that may have like programmed in the industry, or
it can have more elbow room than just renovating.
So you guys,
because it's actually very, very, very hard to fine tune, because I think all those different realms of activity are very vital, very important, and very respectable. So therefore, maybe there's also someone in Minnesota who's a big champion, who's like got 25,000 high scores with Twin Galaxies.
Oh, yeah.
I always stick with Twin Galaxies, and I always make Twin Galaxies my anchor in terms of, verifying world records and stuff. Because there's dozens and dozens and dozens of people. But because of the incredible brilliance of the internet, anybody can set up a scoreboard and start tracking scores. But Twin Galaxy is the one that actually verifies the scores on a deep cleansing level, so that's why Guinness and considers them the official scoreboard. So maybe a high score person, or maybe a famous podcast journalist, or
I nominate Dan, Mark, and Adam.
Done.
No, but we can do that. Let's work together to put up a poll.
That's a great idea. And they could come up into different categories, and then you guys can decide which person in which category would be the winner.
Maybe
it's
I could
be your champion.
Mark, is there like a polling website, or Dan, do you guys know of a polling website that we could use?
Well, I know that.
Called
I think there's one on Google. Isn't there a Google vote, or I don't know what it is, but it's not hard to find. Just ask on Google where there's a polling website, and you'll have 50 of them offered.
There's one on Twitter?
Yeah, you can post a poll on
interesting.
Twitter.
The only thing is that once you select someone, the only criteria that they have to meet before they appear on the trading card is that we have to have them printed. They have to They have to be bonded, and they have to have on their resume that they've at least been up one time. They've been up in the space shuttle. So essentially, but they require. It's easy. I mean, people will get
John
through
Glenn.
It's not that hard. Not that hard.
Yeah. So we I don't know, Dan. I'm thinking off the top of my head. We could put some names up there, but we could also have some people nominate. Like I'm thinking, maybe Sean. You mentioned him earlier, and you have Chris Rhodes, and you've got Eric Bose, who's like this all of a sudden. By the way, Eric, if you're listening, thanks for listening, because he just trapped me at MGC and said I was what kept him sane at work. So our team was rather. So he was very complimentary, but he is like skyrocketed in the restoration hobby. Like many of us, he went from like 0 to 20 games in a very short period of time. So, but then there's other people like Walter was mentioning. We should try to put together a poll. Maybe I can get one of you guys to help me out with getting that set up, so we can have both a nomination section, and then we can have some finalists, and then we can vote on it, and maybe Arcade Radio can put up the bill for the card. So
I think that sounds like a great idea.
Mark, Dan, do you have any other names that you're thinking of right now?
I think you've hit some
the usual suspects around here. It's Chris Rhodes and Sean, and we'll have to see. We'll probably have to exclude ourselves from this awesome contest. So,
well, word has it we're on the chopping block to have some cards made anyway. So,
the chopping block, is that a good thing?
Well, I didn't have a good analogy. It's live radio, so sometimes things just come out of my face and they don't sound right.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll work
analogy-free radio.
Analogy-free. Yes. I think that's the new REM song coming out next week. Oh, wait, they broke up. So.
Aw.
It's very sad. So I just want to say it's been a real honor to have you on the show, Walter.
Well, I've been honored to be on the show. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, we would love to have you on again in the near future. We don't often have the opportunity to have somebody that's been in multiple documentaries and started up a whole scoreboard system for an arcade. So it's been a real pleasure.
By the way, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Brian Kuh just entered the room.
Oh, did he?
Brian Kuh is here visiting as a house guest, and he is available to be on your show anytime you want to schedule him.
Oh,
he's the best. I love that guy. He was really nice at Mall
Hey, Brian. Hey,
Yeah, he can hear you now.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah, hey guys.
It's Adam from a couple weeks ago, and Dan.
Okay.
Good to hear your voice.
Yeah.
Is there a kill screen coming up?
Hey,
There's a kill screen coming up.
I know that gets overused, but it's we were really impressed with you, and Mark. Actually, you've met Brian before, right?
Yeah, at Fun Spot.
Fun Spot. Okay, cool. Yeah,
and we're glad to have all of you from from Minnesota come to Fun Spot, and those of you who have traveled a long way to come see Fun Spot.
Yeah. Oh, I so want to do that. We should just do an arcade radio. The three of us, and then anybody who wants to come along. Just a low key weekend. We'll make Brian some breakfast, and
sounds good. Yeah, as long as you got well done bacon, sounds like a great idea. And and in fact, sometimes the off season is the best time to come. I mean, if you come and it's not during the summer months, you can have the whole place to yourself in the classic game section. I mean, there's not too many people there.
Well, Dave from Buffalo says hi. He says he met you at Fun Spot.
All right. Now, was that the same Dave who bought my T-shirt, or a different Dave from Buffalo who bought my T-shirt?
I don't know. And then we have Gus Scott who says hi.
We've had a lot of fans come to Fun Spot from far away, and when you look at Buffalo, New York, and how far of a car ride it is to get to New Hampshire, it shows you how dedicated some of these players are to come and see Fun Spot and keep classics going.
Yeah. Well, this was a kind of a treat to have you at the end of the show along with Walter, but maybe we can have you on in the next couple of weeks. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that sounds great if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, well, let me.
Awesome.
I'll talk to Walter and we'll set you up for one of the next shows. And we would love to talk to you.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, cool. Walter, thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, yeah, this is Arcade Radio. That's the double R's. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube. And we look forward to having another show here in the next couple of weeks. Thanks for listening in. Thanks for everybody who joined the chat. Walter, Brian, great to hear from you. We look forward to hearing from you again in the future. And this is Arcade Radio signing off.
Bye.
This is where we dance.
This is where we dance. There we go. Getting down. Getting down. Getting down. Oh, I'm doing the boogie.
Yeah, I'm putting on some cargo shorts.
That's a good idea. Cargo shorts, that's where it's at, man. Wait a minute. That's an in-joke, isn't it? Is that a Brofest joke? Or a Grinker's joke?
You do have to wear cargo pants to do those things.
I don't think I have any cargo shorts anymore.
I'll hook you up, dude.
Gus Scott said must have been the other Dave from Buffalo. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.